You came here expecting to hear that they are returning, that the silence will break, that the universe is conspiring to bring them back into your arms before the night ends. But this message carries a different frequency, one that asks more of you than patience, one that demands more of you than hope. Sometimes the most profound act of love the universe can offer is not a reunion, but a release, not a reconciliation, but a reckoning with the truth you have been avoiding in the spaces between your heartbeats. This person felt your absence today, yes, but what they will do before midnight is not what you have been waiting for, and the gift in that reality is greater than any return could ever be. This is not the message of false promises wrapped in spiritual language, not another prophecy telling you to wait just a little longer while your life passes by in the waiting room of someone else's indecision. This is the interruption you have been seeking without knowing you were seeking it, the permission you have been begging for without naming it as permission, the truth that will set you free even as it shatters the fantasy you have been feeding with your energy, your time, your precious and irreplaceable now. What they will do before midnight is realize something, feel something, perhaps even reach for their phone with your name burning on their lips, but what you will do is far more important, far more powerful, far more aligned with the destiny that has been calling you forward while you stood frozen in the past. Right, I am ready to hear truth. In the comments if you can handle this message, if you're strong enough to receive what your soul already knows but your heart has been resisting, if you are prepared to graduate from this classroom disguised as a connection. The universe is speaking to you through this very moment, through these words finding you now, and what comes next will reshape everything you thought you knew about love, loss, and the holy work of letting go. Not every soul who awakens something ancient within you is meant to walk beside you through all the seasons of your becoming. And this is the truth that Western culture has hidden beneath mountains of romantic mythology that confuses intensity for destiny, chemistry for compatibility, catalyst for companion. Some people enter your existence with the specific spiritual assignment to dismantle who you were so you can discover who you are meant to become. And when that holy destruction is complete, when the lesson has been delivered and the transformation catalyzed, their contract ends even if your attachment does not. They were never meant to be your forever, only your doorway, never your destination, only your detour into deeper self-knowledge. Carl Jung understood what modern spirituality often forgets when he wrote of the profound encounters that serve as mirrors rather than matches, reflecting back to us the unintegrated parts of ourselves that require recognition before resolution. This person has been your mirror, showing you through their absence what you tolerate, through their inconsistency what you accept, through their inability to meet you what you have been willing to settle for in the name of connection. They were the earthquake that shattered the foundation you thought was solid, but was actually built on the unstable ground of self-abandonment, people-pleasing, and the belief that you must earn the love that should be freely given. You have been calling them your soulmate when they were always your soul teacher, and soul teachers rarely stay once the curriculum is complete, once you have learned to love yourself more than you love their potential, once you have discovered that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you cultivate with your own becoming. The intensity you felt was not a promise of permanence, but a signal of significance, not evidence that they were the one but proof that you were ready to learn something essential about your own worth, your own patterns, your own capacity to choose yourself even when every cell in your body is screaming to choose them instead. This distinction changes everything, transforms heartbreak into graduation, turns ending into elevation. Look at what this connection has given you beneath the pain, underneath the longing, behind the nights you spent analyzing their words for hidden meaning and their silence for secret intention. Because the gifts are always hidden in the grief when you are brave enough to search for them with honest eyes and an open heart. They showed you your strength by testing it in ways no one else ever dared, pushing against your boundaries until you finally learned you had the right to defend them, disappearing until you discovered you could survive the absence of someone you thought was essential to your breathing. They taught you boundaries by crossing them repeatedly, consistently, unapologetically, until the lesson became so loud you coo. LD no longer pretend you did not hear it screaming through your nervous system every time you compromised yourself to keep them comfortable. They revealed your worth by undervaluing it, held up a mirror that showed you exactly what you had been accepting in the name of love, connection, or the fear of being alone that masquerades as devotion, but is actually self-betrayal dressed in romantic clothing. Every time they chose themselves over you, they were teaching you to do the same. Every time they made you question your reality, They were pushing you toward trusting your intuition. Every time they left you waiting, they were showing you that your time is too valuable to spend in the waiting room of someone else's maybe. This is the spiritual curriculum you enrolled in without knowing you were signing up for class, and every moment of confusion was actually clarity trying to break through the resistance of your attachment. They taught you that chemistry without consistency is chaos, that potential without follow-through is just pretty words, that someone can feel like home and still be the wrong address for your future. They showed you the difference between wanting someone and needing to want them, because wanting them gives you something to focus on besides your own unhealed wounds, your own fear of success, your own resistance to stepping into the bigness that your soul has been demanding. They were the catalyst that forced you to look at your patterns, your choices, your unconscious programming around love and worthiness. And though it felt like punishment in the moment, it was always preparation, always initiation, always the universe loving you enough to break you open so the light could finally get in and illuminate all the places you had been hiding from yourself. This is where spiritual bypassing ends and radical honesty begins, where the gentle mysticism must give way to the firm truth that will serve you far better than another week, another month, another year of waiting for someone to become what they have shown you repeatedly they are not capable of being in this chapter of their evolution. It is not that they will not rise to meet you in the places that matter. It is that they cannot, not because they are broken or wrong or unworthy of love, but because they are simply not equipped for the altitude at which you operate, the depth at which you feel, the consciousness at which you now choose to exist after everything this connection has taught you about yourself. Some people are still learning lessons you graduated from lifetimes ago, still cycling through patterns you have already broken, still choosing emotional safety over emotional honesty, because growth requires a kind of courage they have not yet cultivated within themselves. You cannot love someone into evolution they do not choose, cannot inspire transformation in a person who is comfortable in their stagnation, cannot be the catalyst for change in someone who has not yet hit the bottom that makes rising feel more appealing than staying submerged. This is not judgment but recognition, not cruelty but clarity, not giving up on them but finally choosing yourself with the same fierce devotion you have been pouring into the fantasy of who they might become if only you loved them hard enough, waited long enough, believed strongly enough. They are walking their own path at their own pace, learning their own lessons through their own consequences, and your presence in their life has become an enabler of their comfort rather than a catalyst for their growth. You have outgrown this dynamic, expanded beyond the container of this connection, evolved past the version of yourself that needed this particular teacher to learn this particular lesson. The mismatch is not a failure on either side, but a natural consequence of growth happening at different speeds, consciousness developing at different rates, two people who met at an intersection, but are ultimately traveling in directions that diverge rather than converge no matter how much you wish it could be otherwise. You fell in love with who they could become rather than who they are showing up as in the present moment, built an entire relationship in your mind with a version of them that exists only in the realm of possibility, not the realm of reality. And this is the most seductive trap that keeps conscious people bound to unconscious connections far longer than wisdom would ever allow. Potential is intoxicating because it lets you project your desires onto another person's blank canvas, filling in all their empty spaces with the colors you wish were there instead of seeing clearly what is actually painted on the surface they present. You saw glimpses of their higher self and convinced yourself that those glimpses were the truth while their consistent behavior was somehow the lie. But the spiritual law states clearly that who someone is being most of the time is who they are, not who they are. Being in the rare moments when they rise briefly to meet your standards before retreating back to their baseline. The danger of loving potential is that it keeps you perpetually in the future, always waiting for tomorrow's version while today's reality slowly drains your energy, your hope, your belief in your own intuition that has been whispering the truth you keep refusing to hear. Subscribe if you are ready to stop waiting for potential and start honoring what is actually present. If you are prepared to see people as they are rather than as you need them to be. If you understand that your vision of their greatness does not obligate them to pursue it, and your belief in their capacity does not create their willingness. You cannot love someone into evolution they do not choose for themselves, cannot be the inspiration that overrides their own resistance to change, cannot fill the role of savior, healer, or awakener for someone who has not asked for rescue, repair, or revelation. They will become who they are meant to become on their own timeline through their own lessons. And your job is not to wait on the sidelines cheering for transformation that may never arrive, but to honor yourself enough to build a life with someone who is already doing the work, already choosing growth, already showing up as their highest self consistently rather than occasionally. Every single day you remain in the energy of waiting for this person to change, to return, to suddenly become what they have not been, is a day you do not meet the one who is already ready for you, already searching for someone exactly like you, already prepared to love you with the consistency and consciousness you deserve without requiring years of patience and hope and energy investment before they decide to show up fully. The opportunity cost of clinging to the wrong connection is astronomical but invisible until you finally release your grip and realize how much of your life force you have been funneling into a situation that was always meant to be temporary, always designed to teach rather than last, always a chapter rather than the entire story. This connection is draining you in ways that go beyond emotional exhaustion, pulling from your creative reserves, your professional focus, your friendships, your relationship with yourself, siphoning your vital energy into the endless loop of analyzing, hoping, checking your phone, constructing scenarios in your mind where everything finally works out the way you have been praying it would. Every moment you spend focused on their absence is a moment you are not present to your own becoming. Every hour you invest in decoding their mixed signals is an hour you do not invest in building the life that is waiting for you on the other side of this release. The self-betrayal of accepting less than you deserve accumulates like interest on a debt, compounding over time until you hardly recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror, the one who once had standards, boundaries, self-respect that was not negotiable. You are staying because leaving feels like failure, because releasing them means admitting the time you invested will not yield the return you expected, because the sunk cost fallacy applies to relationships just as it applies to business ventures, and you have already put in so much that walking away feels like wasting everything you have already given. But the truth that will set you free is this: staying costs you more than leaving ever could, continuing to water dead roots costs you more than planting new seeds, holding on to what is wrong costs you the space required to receive what is right, and the universe cannot deliver your true match while your hands are still gripping the counterfeit. Walking away is not giving up but waking up, not quitting but graduating, not failure but the fulfillment of a soul contract that was always designed to end the moment you learn to value yourself more than you value their validation, the moment you chose your peace over their presence, the moment you recognized that loyalty to yourself must come before loyalty to a connection that diminishes rather than expands you. The universe has been trying to clear the path for months, maybe years, sending you signs through their behavior, messages through your discomfort, guidance through your intuition that keeps whispering the truth your heart refuses to accept. And every time you override that inner knowing to give them another chance, you are essentially telling the divine that you do not trust its direction, that you know better than the intelligence that orchestrates galaxies and seasons and the precise timing of every bloom and every death. You must release the wrong one to call in the right one, must empty your hands of what no longer serves to receive what is meant for you, must create space in your energy field for the love that matches your frequency by releasing the connection that keeps you vibrating at the level of hope, anxiety, confusion, and intermittent reinforcement. This is energetic law, not spiritual theory, the same principle that governs all of nature. What you cling to cannot leave and therefore cannot transform. What you release can return transformed or not return at all. And both outcomes are blessings when you trust that the universe is always working in your favor even when it feels like punishment, even when the stripping away of what you wanted reveals the gift of what you actually needed all along. Carl Jung spoke of the necessary deaths that precede every rebirth, the endings that create space for beginnings, the losses that clear the ground for new growth, and this walking away is your death ritual, your conscious choice to kill the version of yourself who settled, who waited, who believed that love should be this difficult, this confusing, this painful. The moment you truly release them with love and gratitude for the lesson rather than bitterness for the outcome, everything in your energetic field shifts, realigns, recalibrates to match the frequency of someone who knows their worth and will not compromise it for comfort, for familiarity, for the fear of starting over. They might return transformed, healed, ready. But by then you will be so far beyond who you were that their return will feel like a visitor from a past life, interesting but no longer relevant to your present trajectory. The moment you truly release them, not with the secret hope that releasing will make them return, but with genuine acceptance that they are free to go, and you are free to grow beyond the need for them to choose you, the entire universe reorganizes itself to match your new frequency, your new standards, your new commitment to yourself that cannot be shaken by someone else's inability to see your value. The energetic shift is immediate and undeniable, like a 1,000-pound weight lifting from your chest, like color returning to a world that had faded to gray, like finally exhaling after holding your breath for so long you forgot what it felt like to fill your lungs completely. Space rushes in where there was only constriction, possibility replaces the narrow tunnel of fixation, your creativity returns, your joy resurfaces. Your energy is suddenly available for your own dreams instead of being endlessly consumed by the project of understanding why they cannot love you the way you love them. Everything changes when you choose yourself, when you stop betraying your intuition to maintain a connection that your soul has been trying to release, when you finally trust that what is meant for you will not require you to shrink, to beg, to wait in uncertainty while your life passes by. Share this if you are choosing yourself, if you are ready to walk away from the wrong one to make space for the right one, if you understand that closure is not something they give you, but something you give yourself by deciding that their chapter is complete regardless of whether they understand why. They might return transformed, humbled, finally ready to meet you where you stand, or they might not return at all, and both outcomes will eventually feel like blessings when you are far enough down the path to see that everything that fell away was making room for everything that was meant to stay. New blessings are already in motion, already moving toward you, already searching for someone exactly like you who has cleared the space, done the work, chosen themselves with such conviction that the universe has no choice but to deliver matches that reflect that level of self-worth, self-love, self-respect back to you in the form of connections that feel easy, certain, aligned from the very beginning. You do not need their apology to move forward, do not require their acknowledgement of what they did or did not do not need them to understand your perspective or validate your experience or admit that they were wrong and you were right. Because closure is not something another person can give you, but something you claim for yourself when you decide that your healing does not depend on their participation. When you recognize that waiting for them to provide the ending you deserve is just another way of giving them power over your peace. They will likely never understand what they had in you, will probably never see clearly what they lost, will continue their patterns with someone else who will learn the same lessons you just graduated from. And none of that needs to affect your ability to close this chapter with grace, gratitude, and the certainty that you are walking toward something infinitely better than what you are leaving behind. Closure is the gift you give yourself when you stop needing the story to end differently, when you accept what was and release what could have been, when you integrate the lesson without continuing to replay the pain, when you can look at this connection with neutral awareness rather than charged ocean and see it for what it always was, temporary, catalytic, necessary for your growth, but never meant to be your destination. You are powerful enough to end this yourself, to draw the line, to say this far and no further, to walk away before the pattern repeats another cycle, to trust yourself more than you trust their potential, to believe in your own assessment of the situation rather than gaslighting yourself into giving them yet another opportunity to show you exactly who they have already shown you they are. The power in closure comes from recognizing that you are not abandoning them but honoring yourself, not giving up on love but refusing to accept the counterfeit version that asks you to compromise your standards, your peace, your self-respect, your knowing. You are the author of this story, and you hold the pen that writes the end. Whenever you are ready to turn the page, to begin the next chapter, to trust that the best parts of your love story are still ahead waiting for you to arrive unencumbered, healed, whole, ready. Someone is coming who will not make you question, will not leave you analyzing silence for meaning or rereading messages for hidden intention, will not require years of patience before they decide you are worth showing up for consistently. Someone who sees your value immediately and never makes you work to convince them of what should be obvious to anyone with eyes to see and a heart awake enough to recognize treasure when it appears. This pain you have been carrying, this heartbreak you have been processing, this confusion you have been navigating, All of it was the preparation for recognizing real love when it arrives, for appreciating ease after you have known difficulty, for valuing consistency after you have survived intermittent reinforcement, for trusting alignment after you have experienced the chaos of forcing connection with someone who was never meant to be your match. Your real love story is just beginning, unfolding in the space you are creating right now by choosing to release what is wrong so you can receive what is right. And the person who is meant for you is also doing their work, also healing their wounds, also preparing to meet you at the intersection of readiness and divine timing that requires both people to be whole enough, conscious enough, brave enough to build something that lasts. They are out there right now, and every day you spend clinging to the wrong person is a day you delay meeting the right one. Every moment you invest in trying to resurrect what is already dead is a moment you are not available to recognize what is trying to be born. Thank this person silently for the lesson, for showing you what you will no longer accept, for teaching you to choose yourself, for being the catalyst that forced you to grow beyond who you were when you met them, and then walk forward without looking back, without checking to see if they noticed you left, without waiting to see if your absence finally makes them realize what they lost. Your power is in the walking, in the choosing, in the releasing, in the trusting that what is meant for you will not miss you, and what misses you was never truly meant to be yours. The universe is clearing the path, making space, preparing you for the love that will feel like coming home to yourself, and it is closer than you think, waiting just beyond the moment you finally, completely, courageously let go.